That's what should be hearing, just hearing the heartbeat of the equipment.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Bonjour.
Gosh, it feels like I'm teaching a class again back in high school. My name is Matt Cisco. I am the mayor of the great city of St. Catharines in the Niagara region in Ontario. I'm also currently serving as one of the co-chairs of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. And I'm excited to be here today to launch the City Initiative's Economic Transformation Action Plan, a blueprint for economic growth and freshwater stewardship in the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River region. The action plan sets a bold, transformative vision to prepare for increasing water scarcity across the world by building a fresh coast economic corridor right here in our region, which has 84% of North America's fresh water. We'll soon hear from several of our region's local elected leaders, including Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago, Mayor Valerie Plante of Montreal, Mayor Justin Bibb of Cleveland, and Deputy Mayor Paul Ainslie of Toronto. These leaders will talk more about our shared vision for a fresh coast economic corridor, about how we plan to attract and retain industries committed to sustainability, and about initiatives they are already advancing in their respective cities to advance economic transformation. But first, we'd like to share a brief video.
Water, the essence of life, the defining feature of our planet. And yet, despite our exploration beyond the stars, it remains elusive elsewhere. We rely on water not only for survival, but for powering our economies, building communities, and sustaining our way of life. But now that delicate balance is shifting. Rising temperatures, damaging storms, and freshwater shortages threaten regions and economies worldwide. These effects will prompt population migration and industry relocation. Amid this uncertainty and turmoil stands a beacon of hope. The Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River region, home to over 80% of North America's fresh water and generating $6 trillion in economic activity, our region holds the key to a sustainable future. It's time to unlock our potential with a bold vision, the Fresh Coast Economic Corridor. The Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative is ready to work with you to build a world-leading economy that responsibly taps into our freshwater wealth and enhance our world-class quality of life that blends thriving communities with extraordinary natural assets. Let's work together to upgrade our grids with clean, reliable, locally produced energy to power an electrified economy and society, to expand the region's economic base by attracting responsible businesses and helping existing employers invest in modernizing their operations and improving their productivity, to revitalize waterfronts as dynamic hubs for commerce, community, and culture that connect people with our lakes and rivers, and to expand the use of our waterways to move goods and people faster and more efficiently. This is our moment to transform the region, protect our waters, and secure lasting prosperity for generations to come. Join us in creating the Fresh Coast Economic Corridor. Together, let's shine a light on a better way forward and help remake this small blue planet called Earth.
We'll now hear remarks from two of the co-chairs of the Mayor's Commission on Economic Transformation that spearheaded the development of this action plan over the past year, Mayor Johnson of Chicago and Mayor Plante of Montreal. Mayor Johnson, you're up first.
Thank you so much and good afternoon, everyone.
I'm grateful to be with you all this afternoon, representing what I believe is the greatest city in the world, the city of Chicago. I figure there's at least two people from Chicago there. Don't worry, Valerie, you'll get your turn in a second. But it's wonderful to be here with you, Mayor Plant and Mayor Bibb, Mayor Cisco, the Deputy Mayor Ansley, and so many other leaders that recognize the importance of this moment. And as we celebrate the release of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence cities initiatives for economic transformation, this action plan. As co-chair of the city's initiatives mayor commission on economic transformation, I believe it's critically important and it's an historic opportunity for us to transform the world and use the Fresh Coast Economic Corridor as a symbol of hope, but also a real reality of what we are faced with right now. As water scarcity increases globally and right here in North America, water intensive industries and people will have some real considerations to make. And whether it's relocating to where the water is, or ensuring that we are part of a larger region that provides the type of comfort of something as basic as water, those decisions are being made even as we speak today. The Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River region has 84% of North America's surface water, fresh water, several other comparative advantages, not limited to, but certainly as a part of this advantage is we have a highly integrated regional economy, which is the third largest in the entire world, access to international markets through the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Seaway. We have a skilled as well as innovative ready workforce and a legacy of manufacturing as well as strong governance framework like what we see with the Great Lakes Compact. Both these regional advantages should not make us complacent though, however. As I've said, we need to prepare for the shift. And I'm proud to be with you all here today as local elected leaders from across the region who stand by ready to pave the way for the innovation that comes with this action plan. The city's initiatives economic transformation action plan provides a 10-year blueprint for our region to build the Fresh Coast Economic Corridor, but it also provides safeguards as we deal with of course, the economic benefit that we broadly will be able to share. And finally, by implementing this action plan and working with regional partners to advance similar initiatives, our hope is that we contribute to achieving the several transformational goals that have been set forth in our region by the year 2035. We want to attract what we know will provide an opportunity for many businesses, 500,000 new businesses that are committed to long-term sustainability, as well as creating over 18 million new jobs, bolstering economic growth, as well as simultaneously building a long-term sustainable opportunity for generations to come. We're taking steps to ensure that the bodies of water that play an incredible role in our cities, that we take full advantage to make sure that we are successful and that communities across our region can thrive. I'm looking forward to working with all of the leaders that are here today to make sure that the Fresh Coast Economic Corridor becomes a reality in our region. And so with that, I'm very proud to bring one of the coolest, baddest mayors on the planet, make her feel really good in the city of New York, on behalf of the city of Chicago, on behalf of the United States of America, the mayor who is a part of the Commission for Real Economic Transformation, Mayor Valerie Plant.
Thank you. I love this title. Well, coming from a very cool mayor himself, Brendan, thank you so much. Très heureuse d'être parmi vous cet après-midi. J'aimerais tout d'abord mentionner que we're in the home of Quebec, right here, à la délégation générale du Québec. Je tiens à remercier Monsieur David Brulotte, qui est le délégué général du Québec ici même. J'aimerais aussi saluer l'ensemble de mes collègues, all mayors from one board to another. Special shout out pour les maires du Québec. Du pays. Hey, faites du bruit, là! They're only two, but they're making a lot of noise. Thank you, guys. That's tough to compete with Chicago. Okay, so like I was saying, it is always an honor and a privilege to be reunited with my fellow members of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. I'm particularly excited to launch today the Economic Transformation Action Plan that brings to life our shared vision of sustainable development for the entire Great Lakes and St. Lawrence region. Sometimes we forget about it, but this big region is actually the third most important regional economy in the world. So there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of things to care about, and this plan is there to support all of us at the local level, but also subnational level to support this great resource that we have, which is the Great Lake, all the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence River. Today, we have an historic opportunity to ensure the economic prosperity and environmental health of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River region. And this unique territory represents an economy worth more than 6 trillion, the third largest in the world. The proposed action plan goes beyond the borders of our individual communities. It's about building something that is bigger, something more ambitious, something that will have an impact throughout our region. In fact, this is not only an opportunity, but also a collective responsibility for Alliance members. We must promote the construction of a coastal economic corridor that will protect our fresh water, secure the future of our businesses and communities, and ensure the economic benefits and shared equitably throughout the region. Our cities face the most pressing modern challenges threatening communities and natural resources. And we're the first at the local level to feel the effect of economic, climate, and social crisis. And they're also we're in the best position to respond quickly and effectively. I often say that if other level of government would be as close as we are to our citizens through city council or that type of community places, then I think they would even be more conscious of the work that we're doing at the local level and how this proximity helps us to be very, I would say, efficient, creative, and innovative in terms of finding solutions. A major transition is needed, and it is in this context that we've developed the action plan we're presenting today. There's been a lot of work. It took a while to do this plan, and I'm glad that we're able to present it today. As co-leader of the Mayor's Commission on Economic Transformation, Montreal is delighted with the collective work that has been accomplished. This plan sets the essential foundation for a sustainable future. The success of such an important initiative depends largely on bold local leadership and coordinated action amongst different sectors. Now, more than ever, we must join forces more than ever, align the plan with our local policies, mobilize our partners and communities, and leverage available funding and collaborations. Regional cooperation and support from different levels of government are essential to achieving our goals. And it is in this context that on September 2nd, my counterparts representing major port cities and I sent a letter to the Canadian government. We reiterated the importance of the St. Lawrence Seaway in the idea of diversifying our trade and reaffirmed the Alliance commitment to being part of the solution with this action plan. Today, I also want to tell you that this is a very special moment for me. This is my last meeting with you guys for the Alliance. So I'd like to conclude by inviting you to recognize how far we've come within the Alliance and to be proud of the work. I'm leaving with the conviction that this action plan is more than just a project. It represents a true collective legacy. A legacy that will continue to guide our cities, our communities on the path of sustainable and shared prosperity. I'd like to thank you for the journey we've taken together and on behalf of the team, express Montreal's pride in co-chairing the commission alongside Mayor Johnson and his colleagues in Chicago. It's been a pleasure working together. Your support for the Economic Transformation Action Plan remains the key to its success. And I'm convinced that together, today we have the historic opportunity to make sure that it continues beyond whoever is in this room, because the St. Lawrence River and the Great Lakes deserves a special attention, all the attention in the world, in the times where, it might be a bumpy road in front of us, but we know how to manage a bumpy road. We're mayors, right? We know how to deal with streets and roads. So I want to thank you all for your work, for your commitment. And I do hope, and I'm confident actually, that this work will continue protecting our great resources that is so connected to the prosperity, economic prosperity, but also social and environmental prosperity of our local communities. Thank you. And it is now my pleasure to introduce Daniel Karimi, the Board of Directors Council of the Great Lakes Region.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, bonsoir.
Good afternoon.
It's a great pleasure to be here with you, and thank you, mayors, for your inspiring speeches. It will be very hard to follow. I have a great pleasure of serving on the board of Council of the Great Lakes Region. I'm a first-generation Canadian and a first-generation American. I came to our great region because of the economic opportunity, and I stayed because of natural beauty. I'm sure you can share the sentiment. Once you see those lakes, once you see the river, there's no turning back. My job today is very, very easy. It's just to express on behalf of the council that I represent our full support to everything that you do. Very proud and honored to be part of the development of the plan, and we are even more honored and delighted to be part of the implementation. We have a few programs that fit perfectly well into what you're planning to achieve, and we are fully ready to support. During our workshop earlier today, I've heard the energy from all the mayors express their opportunities, their hopes, but one comment stayed with me really well. It was a comment about the fact that we all really know really well about the potential of the region. But as any physics major will tell you, there's only one thing that is better than potential energy, is kinetic energy. It's time to start moving. We know how to do it. We know we have the people in the room to make sure this happens. And with the leadership of outgoing and incoming co-chairs, I'm sure we'll make it happen. Thank you very much.
Can I just say, as a former physics teacher, I'm quite happy that that was. I do want to thank Mayor Johnson, Mayor Plante, and Mr. Karimi of the Council of the Great Lakes Region for those excellent opening remarks. At this time, I'd like to invite Mayor Johnson, Mayor Plante, Mayor Bibb, and Deputy Mayor Ainsley to join me for the fireside chat on our shared vision for economic transformation and a fresh coast economic core.
Great meeting.
Now, I will say I've had the opportunity to hear several of you speak already today. I know you are wonderful public speakers, and I look forward to the exact same type of questions filled with humor and insight and all the rest of it. So I'm looking forward to this today.
That's a lot to expect for.
Before happy hour too.
Right.
I don't think it's too much, Mayor Johnson.
Okay, all right, well, maybe you should start off after Sunday.
You know what? I'll go with Mayor Bibb.
Thank you.
I saw that earlier today as well. You got started with it, that was unfair. So I'm gonna go to Mayor Bibb first. The City Initiatives Economic Transformation Action Plan seeks to contribute to the achievement of several bold regional goals by 2035, including attracting 500,000 new businesses, creating more than 18 million new jobs, and cutting emissions by 300 million megatons. Why are these goals of business attraction, job creation, and emissions reduction so important for the region's continued economic prosperity?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I want to thank the co-chairs for their leadership and making this effort possible. Two quick things I want to start with. One, just 2 weeks ago, I was in Toronto, stealing all your ideas of how you guys created one of the best waterfronts in the world. So a great model in Toronto. And then To the mayor of Montreal, we just talked about this earlier. We just inked a deal to have a direct flight from Cleveland to Montreal with Air Canada. So a big opportunity for us to continue to enhance our economic collaboration. I'll say this, and Mayor Jonathan knows this point well as well. This is the moment for the heartland of America to win, especially for major cities on the Great Lakes. Cleveland once led America's first industrial revolution because John D. Rockefeller started Standard Oil right in Cleveland, the world's first billionaire. And as we look to all the trends around onshoring and reindustrialization, I think Cleveland, given the fact that number one, we are actually a two waterfront city. We sit on the shores of Lake Erie and the Cuyahoga River. Right now, we have a $5 billion effort to make Cleveland an amazing two waterfront city. $4 billion of private capital committed from Dan Gilbert and Bedrock. We just did the largest TIF in our city's history, a $4 billion tax increment financing district to spur that effort. And I would also say this, one of the big drivers of new job creation in Cleveland will be the work we're doing around site readiness. When I got to office, we had zero sites available for job attraction and retention, zero. Now, in just 3 years, we have nearly 400 acres under contract to develop and attract more jobs back to the urban core. And so we're going to do our part, but this is the moment for Great Lakes cities and the heartland of America to compete, especially with the importance we're all talking about today.
Excellent. Deputy Mayor Ainsley, I'm going to switch over to you. The Economic Transformation Action Plan also includes regional goals on the need to improve water quality from fair to good, and prevent any increase in the percentage of water that's lost annually to consumptive uses. So why is that freshwater stewardship so important and such a central component of the action?
Thanks for that question, and I'm also going to thank the chairs, the co-chairs, for all the work that they did on this plan, and everybody that gave their input into it. You know, I think it's so important. And when you talk about, you know, everybody likes the idea that their quality of water is fair, but I think, you know, we're all striving to make sure the quality of that water is good. Because when you look at our area, the amount of water in the Great Lakes, the St. Lawrence Seaway, you know, the 4 key components for me of what water does is supports our industry, supports our agriculture, recreation, and public health. And, you know, we've had discussions today and yesterday about areas in this world that have 75% scarcity of water. And I think we're very blessed by the amount of water that we have in the Great Lakes. But, you know, as we look at the action plan that we're implementing, when we look at that water, the key components of it is how important it is to support our economy and what it does for the environment as well. And our action plan that we're putting forward ties those 2 key components together. And that's what I think is going to be so important to the Great Lakes St. Lawrence City Initiative and all of the areas that it encompasses.
All right. Mayor Plante, I'll come to you. In your opening remarks, you and Mayor Johnson both talked about, you know, emphasizing that the region needs new model, that we need to look at economic development in a new way. So could you give a little insight into like what was the vision behind the Fresh Coast Economic Corridor and how is that demonstrate shift in the way we look at economic development in the area?
Yes, absolutely. So for the way I see it, why this plan is so important is that it talks about the necessity of supporting economic prosperity. I think that's what all we're looking for. We want to offer jobs. We want to have new industry. We want to have a new sector in our city. That's good for us. This is how we also, let's be honest, bring some money into our budget to support the services and the quality of life of our citizens. This is how it all happens. But I find that with this plan, we're thinking like, we're looking ahead, thinking, okay, economic prosperity, yes, but what about the social and environmental prosperity as well? How do we make sure that as we are supporting our economy from, you know, the traditional model, again, it's important, we want to create jobs, but how do we do that as well as guaranteeing or putting all the efforts necessary, not to put it in an opposition with, or the social equity and the environment, and it's not easy. But for me, why I'm proud that we're working all this together is that I feel like it almost brings, first of all, hope, but also a necessity to be on the same page while we develop, because we're all connected. So if there's one region that is like all the way moving in a way that, for example, environment doesn't matter, well, it turns out if it affects the water, it affects my citizens, it affects our one amazing resource, which is the Great Lakes and the St. Lawrence that we all share. So I do, I like the idea of the common good and finding compromises and bringing forward common objectives for the population. And again, thinking, how can I say, further?
Further.
Yeah, so we don't make only decisions for now, but I think as elected official, our job is to make decisions for the next generation. And that's what they would be saying. If they could talk right now, they'd say, thank you for doing that.
Well, and I think the reality is that voters tell us that they don't want us to be thinking in election cycles, they want us to be thinking further down the road, and so I think that's exactly what you're saying there. Mayor Johnson, I'll come to you, and I think it's been touched on a little bit by everybody, but in your opening remarks, you touched on it as well. This is a unique region, but why are we better positioned in the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Basin to attract and retain the industries that are committed to sustainability?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. 20% of the world's fresh water is in our region, and that places us at the heart of this next wave of the transforming of our economy. Mayor Bibb, talked about one of the captains of industry, if you will, and the next 100 to 150 years of innovative systems that are ultimately developed by government and industry, it happens today. And, as a, no disrespect to the science department, the physics and chemistry teachers, but those of us, who teach the most important subjects, social studies and history. Yes, thank you. That's humanities, it's all connected. And thank you for all of you who stayed awake in all of your humanities classes. As people are dozing off as I'm speaking now, but just get back focused here. So, understanding, this historic moment that we're in with 20% of the world's fresh water, in Chicago and really around the region. We're talking about some of the top universities in the country, in the world, where the type of research that's going to be needed and critical in this moment, we have those assets. We have the best workforce. We do large scale, innovative elements well in this region. And so whether it's the first skyscraper or the fact that electricity came to life in Chicago as we know it today, that this is a crucial historic moment with all of the assets that we do have. I think the last thing that I'll say is, besides the obvious of having the resource, universities, workforce, history on our side, it's also important to what Mayor Plante indicated, that there's a social element of this that is so critical, and we as government leaders have to put forth the policies today that set us up for the future. So one of the things that we have done effective this year, 2025, all of our public buildings are powered by 100% renewable energy. And that includes both of our airports. Here's what's powerful about it. The solar plant that fuels Chicago is about 200 miles away from Chicago. And so what we have to do as local leaders, especially because, at least here in America, at the federal level, the president of the United States of America is working hard to divide not just people, but regions. And so whether it's urban centers or agriculture, we are in this moment positioned to bring every single industry to life. So Chicago, not one industry in Chicago of the 5 major industries take up more than 14% of our overall GDP. And so no disrespect to other places in America, if one particular industry crumbles in New York, which we all know which one we're talking about, that affects their entire economy. Same thing on the West Coast in Los Angeles. Here in the Midwest, with all of the assets, with the social advantages that we do have in this moment, and the clarity of consciousness that is being developed through this action plan, we are best positioned to set up what we know is long-term sustainable economies that ultimately places us in a position where the next captains of industry will be developed through green, blue economy.
I really appreciate that. I want to take a closer look at the economic transformation that's already happening. And Mayor Johnson, I think I'm going to start with you because you touched on it in your last answer. We want to give people an understanding of what the vision of the Fresh Coast Economic Corridor is. So you've touched on it. A couple of those examples of economic transformation that are already underway in Chicago, especially in the areas of industry transformation and energy transformation. Could you touch on a couple of those?
Yeah, I'll just say this briefly. We already mentioned the 100% renewable energy, but we're also doing things at a very local level. So we introduced what is called the Hazel-Johnson Ordinance, which essentially challenges industry to be in line with the social element that they're expressed. That industries that have, the potential for high pollution, that they have to go through stronger regulatory practices to determine whether or not this industry, even with whatever economic benefit that it provides, does the cost benefit outweigh the environmental justice components from it. And we're getting some pushback, as you can imagine, from industry. Received some phone calls this morning that whether it's fossil fuel or the major oil companies, they certainly are in opposition to this. But when you think about the places where many of the social determinants of someone's future are pronounced, the same communities where disinvestment has taken place are also the same communities where environmental injustice is run amok, right? I'm on the west side of Chicago in the neighborhoods, the Austin neighborhood. It's the largest concentration of Black folks anywhere in the city of Chicago, one of the largest neighborhoods for a Black community anywhere in the country. And I grew up with asthma. The hot spots in terms of injustice that exists are in the same neighborhoods where unemployment is low, where the lack of investment in public education. And so the last thing that I'll say is one of the other things that we've done is that we've created opportunities for families to be able to receive dollars to help retrofit their homes, to make them more energy efficient, but also to ultimately reduce our carbon footprint in our society. And, it's a step in the right direction, but it's something that, as we take a closer look at how we deliver these policies at a very local level, it's making sure that industry is aligned with our values, but also create opportunities for families to participate today to set us up for the future.
Mayor Plante, you be able to touch on perhaps some of the key projects in Montreal that have happened, in terms of economic transformation during your tenure?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe two elements. One of them is regarding the housing, and I think the housing crisis is everywhere in North America, actually everywhere in the world. And for us, we decided to take it as also like a business opportunity or to rethink of the financing model. And working with both the provincial, the federal, the private sector, working with the entire ecosystem, we were able to propose to have a goal of having 20% of the new units, about like 200,000 new units by 2050, 20% will be off market. And that is very strong because, and we don't see that so much in the Americas. Usually it's more in Europe that they have those goals. In Canada, it's about 5% right now. In Quebec, 8%. Our goal is 20%, but there's no way we would have been able to do that without working with the real estate builders and everybody around. So, and we're building right now, having this goal in mind, but also connected to the environment. And that brings me to the other element in which is the carbon neutrality of our buildings. We will be carbon neutral by about 2030. But in order to do that, we had to work with, we brought together the energy companies. We depend mostly on hydro electricity in Quebec, which is an asset, let's put it this way, of course, but there's also other type of energy, but we were able to bring forward objectives of this carbon neutrality, knowing that it's the second most important way of creating emissions I feel like we're actually creating, you know, jobs by building, also bringing, having the mixed city within housing is also an amazing way, not only to make sure that everybody has a roof on top of their head. It can be like high, you know, like the middle class and people with low incomes. But it's also a great way to bring workers within the Montreal area because universities, students, businesses, industries are also looking for affordable place to stay for their workers. So that's how we want to be kind of innovative in Canada, bringing jobs, creating jobs, bringing industry, but having in mind this idea of the environment and social equity always.
Excellent. And Mayor Bibb, under your leadership, you've advanced a couple of different economic transformation initiatives, such as shore to core to shore. Are there a few initiatives that you want to highlight, and talk about with respect to economic transformation?
Yeah, well, I already talked about the waterfront development work we're doing. And briefly, I'll just quickly talk about some of the work we're doing around housing, because I look at housing as a key part of the work we're doing to address climate change and climate resiliency. I believe, you know, the big bet that every mayor and every governor should be investing in right now is rapidly investing in on-site modular housing at the local level. It's efficient, it's green, and it's a jobs play as well too. So we're in the process right now of attracting a modular developer to locate in Cleveland, one of those dirty sites I talked about that will clean it up to attract jobs. And we're taking a innovative tax increment financing tool that we use for waterfront development and putting it in neighborhoods, right? And we think that'll really start to allow us to attract more population, underserved communities of color.
That's excellent. And tax increment financing is one of the best tools that a lot of municipalities have. So kudos to you for taking it forward. Deputy Mayor Ainsley, I'm going to finish with you. You're also implementing in Toronto a number of economic transformation efforts, including what's already been mentioned, the multi-decade waterfront transformation. Which of these efforts do you think are having the biggest economic impact for Toronto and its residents?
Well, and you know, Mayor Bibb alluded to it a few minutes ago, and I'm going to thank him for that shout out. You know, at the beginning we were each talking about being, I think, the best cities on the Great Lakes, and from coming from the city of Toronto, I'm going to say it's a four-way tie. And I'm going to say it's a four-way tie because we have we're redeveloping a portion of our central waterfront in Toronto. It's 1,977 acres area that's being redeveloped. And it's not only the largest waterfront redevelopment project in North America, but the largest waterfront redevelopment project in the world. Oh. And so those 1,977 acres are central waterfront. Our harbor is kind of like a horseshoe. We have Billy Bishop Airport anchoring one side of it for transportation. And then we have this close to 2,000 acres at the other side that Mayor Bibb was talking about. It's going to be very transformative. It's estimated it's going to bring $8.3 billion of gross input into the Canadian economy. For the city of Toronto, we're looking at $75 million in annual tax revenue, which is going to help support the city. We're looking at building close to 20,000 units of housing on our waterfront. But this couldn't be done, much like our economic transformation plan that we're doing. It was done with the federal government, the provincial, the conservation authority, our Indigenous community, bringing everybody to the table, understanding the economic, the environmental, cultural, recreational benefits of doing this on our waterfront. And it's in our central waterfront, so it also ties into right across the 40 kilometers of waterfront, 20 kilometers on each side of our harbor. That vision, bringing it all together to enhance our waterfront and understanding, as I said earlier, the environmental benefits of being on Lake Ontario and also the economic benefits of being on Lake Ontario as well.
I appreciate that. I will say you made a strategic error. You said a four-way tie. You probably should have said a five-way tie. And I only say that, Deputy Mayor, because you have family members who are attending university in my community, and I feel like from a political standpoint, that was a mistake.
My apologies.
Thank you, that's what I thought.
I'm sure my son will be texting me any moment.
No doubt. I do want to thank everybody for an excellent discussion. We're going to move on to the media Q and A in just a moment, but could we get a round of applause? I really. So at this point, if I could ask all members of the city's initiative to come on up to the front. So if we could have all members come on up to the front. And we are going to be taking questions from the media in the audience. I believe most of our media members are online. So if you have a question, just drop that into the chat and we will try to get to.
Been my power forward.
Yeah. I played volleyball at university. That's all I have. Yeah.
Yeah, Gino, run it back.
Right, so if we have questions in the chat, we will hold off for just a moment and let folks get in. I will say, as we are pausing and taking a bunch of wonderful photos of the group, on behalf of the city's initiative, I want to thank all the membership for being here this week. Climate Week obviously is a very big deal for our organization, and this economic transformation master plan is the culmination of a lot of hard work. And I do want to thank the co-chairs once again for all the work that they've put in on this. This is something we've been working towards for quite some time, and the hard work has not been missed.
We don't have any questions from the media yet, so I'm going to open it up for questions from folks in the room. So any questions from the media or partners in the room?
I will say I would take this as a photocopy. Oh,
Yeah, I think that's really great, water news with some recent swims in some Great Lakes rivers. Any commentary about the swimmable cities vision?
Yes, and thank you for that question. You know, there's so much that's happening in the day to day. So, you know, the Chicago River, which is really a symbol of hope for the city of Chicago, the entire region. I share this story often about, you know, a Haitian immigrant and a Potawatomi woman who established a trade post at the bank of the river, believing one day that Chicago will be the global capital of the world. And Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable and Kitty Hawa are the establishers of what really is not just a symbol of hope, but it is a part of our regional economy. The Chicago River was literally rerouted so that we could build an economy around it. Well, over time, though, the river had been neglected. And over the course of years and investments from, you know, our federal leadership in Illinois, congressional leadership, as well as our local leadership with water reclamation, we've been able to clean our river. And we've been able to clean it so well that just this past weekend, we had the first Chicago River swim in 98 years. Chicago yet again is reviving, you know, the spirit of what we call the soul of America, where working people right in our region can participate in all of the assets that the city of Chicago has for the entire world. So thank you for that question. Thank you all. Good night. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.
You keep it.
All right, folks, I want to thank everybody. That I think the mayor actually probably did just shut her down for us, so I appreciate everybody coming out today. We're about to wrap up. I just want to refer any media who are looking for the press release with quotes. You can view that at glslcities.org. We'd encourage everyone here to use the QR code on the executive summary handed to access the action plan. For those of you joining us virtually, the action plan is at glslcities.org/ETAP. And we want to thank all of our partners, especially the Council of the Great Lakes Region and the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Legislative Caucus for supporting our vision of the Fresh Coast Economic Corridor and committing to working with us implementing the action plan. I also want to say again, thank you to the Quebec Government Office in New York for hosting us today. If we get around. And with that, I'd like to recognize Delegate General Brulotte of the Quebec Government Office for any closing remarks. So, Monsieur Brulotte, you want to take us across the finish line?
I know we're gonna.
Thank you so much, everyone. Bonsoir à vous toutes et à vous tous. Je vais être très bref. I promise I'll make my remarks short because this is by far the most treacherous position to be into between all of this brilliant conversation and cocktails. I thought Emmanuel Macron was stuck yesterday in a bit of a pickle with the traffic here, but I think my position is worse now, so I'll make this short. Merci encore d'être ici, à tous les maires du Québec. Merci d'avoir fait le déplacement jusqu'à New York dans un climat qui est assez particulier présentement. Thank you everyone for joining. Such a pleasure to host you all. Thank you for choosing our space to launch this important report. Mayor Johnson, I will take you up on a swim in Chicago. That'd be an awesome feat to do together. So thank you for being here and for all the work and the hard work that you do. I'm going to skip all the notes that are, very profound and technical, but I will say one last word to thank someone who's very important for the presence of Quebec as a province, for Canada as a whole, and most importantly, for Montreal and the international scene, my friend Valérie Plante. Thank you so much for being here, for all the hard work that you did over the last 8 years. And I have to finish with notes. The coolest and baddest mayor of all. Thank you, everyone. We'll be back in 5 minutes for the cocktail. Thank you so much.